Yo, what is going on, Cover One crew? Welcome back to the show. It is that time again. We're talking week number 6. Start, sit, lineup advice. Let's get this going. Wins are at a premium now as we continue to get closer to the fantasy playoffs. I know we're still a ways away. It's about halfway point of the fantasy season, but there still is wins that can be had. Even if you're starting with 1 win, 0 wins, it is never over. And we'll keep going. Bye week troubles this week, not so bad, man. Green Bay Packers and the Pittsburgh Steelers are the only teams. Next week will be the bye week trouble. I believe there's 6 teams on the bye. It's going to be a drastic change, and we're going to have to find all these players with all these injuries and bye weeks. But let's start with these Arizona Cardinals taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Okay, the Cardinals, again, they got some troubles, man. I mean, okay, Hollywood is sick on the question, most likely to suit up, but they lost James Conner to the IR, so he's gone. Now we got Demercado as the running back along with Ingram. Ingram has been dealing with a neck injury as well. I'm going to give a mid-risk to a Demercado. He looked okay, man. Undrafted rookie free agent. We'll see what he's made of versus the LA Rams. Going to be tough sledding. I think if you have better options, obviously use them. But I mean, at this point, mid-level risk just for volume upside. Josh Dobbs, mid-level risk once again. He kind of showed his true colors this past week of what he is. Kind of got smacked around by those Cincinnati Bengals. And I mean, I would also look in another direction this week for Dobbs because Aaron Donald should be coming with the bum rush, and it's not going to be good. Hollywood, mid-level risk, and I got him in the red on the mid-level only because I'm a little worried about his, playing time, etc. based on the illness. Should be good to go, though. And I mean, but this Rams defense showed out pretty well. Wilson is on the low upside, and Zach Ertz does have a mid-level risk for me. Garbage time productivity is where we could save our days with these Arizona Cardinals here in week number 6. The Atlanta Falcons taking on the Washington Commanders, the Commies. Okay, Desmond Ridder, new stat I found. He has not lost a game at home going back to his collegiate career, so we cannot hate this whatsoever. I mean, okay, Desmond Ridder, can we bet on the win? Perhaps in point spread picks, but are we going to talk about another Falcons victory? They are 3-2. They looked decent last week once again, even though it was a very close game. Desmond Ridder drove them down the field at the end to get the field goal. Mid-level risk, the rushing upside is there, and they're starting to utilize all their weapons. Bijan, low-level risk, you fire him up everywhere as always. Low upside for a Tyler Algier right now. We're seeing the, maturation process of this offense come to pass now as Bijan is getting more so of the carries and being a bigger fixture in this offense. Likewise with a Drake London, mid-level risk. He's got 3 boom games on his hands. I like it, man. They're starting to use them a little bit more, and this is kind of, okay, they're going slow. They're going to crawl before they walk. That's kind of what we're seeing from these Atlanta Falcons. They want to get those victories rather than putting up gaudy statistics and trying to force feed your men. I mean, Ritter's taking the open man, trying to find the, open wide receiver or tight end, which they have been using a lot. Mid-level risk for a Drake London. Kyle Pitts gets back up to the mid-levels. We're almost back to low-level risk for a Kyle Pitts. He saw a lot better target share this past week along with Jonnu Smith. So you're using double tight end sets. That's great news because now Ridder gets a little bit more comfortable with his safety blankets. Kyle Pitts, a mid-level. I think you could fire him up against the Commanders this week as well. Drake London, flex spot potentially if you have no better options. I do not hate it whatsoever, man. The Baltimore Ravens taking on the Tennessee Titans in London. Another London contest every single week now. It seems like this is happening. Lamar Jackson and these Ravens dropped one last week because all the wide receivers were dropping every pass to come their way, and then Lamar threw a bad pick at the end. Still low-level risk for Lamar Jackson. Feel like a bounce-back game could be coming on the horizon, but we shall see. I mean, he's been doing well enough. 3 boom games, low-level risk, almost 100 points. Got to start going back to the well. Use your legs. Do what wins you football games in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, easy start, obviously. Gus Edwards or a Justice Hill. That is the question mark in this offense. I'm giving the good upside to a Hill rather than a mid-level to a Gus Edwards. Kind of feeling like we can trust Justice Hill just a little bit more than Edwards at this point. And, I mean, it's not a great backfield to lean on in any stretch, obviously, but if you have to pick one out of these two, I think I'm going to roll with Justice Hill once again this week. Zay Flowers, good upside, but the drops, come on, dude. You're getting the target share. Catch the bloody ball, and we will see very good point productivity. Only 1 boom game for this man right now. I want to see this up to already like 5. Come on, man. I mean, it's not going to be every week, but Zay Flowers got lots of talent, lots of upside. I think good upside still resides here versus a Tennessee defense that does give up points to their wide receivers. receivers, man. Rashad Bateman, high-level risk, not looking in that direction. Dropped an easy touchdown pass this past week, but they do get OBJ back from injuries on the mid-level. And I think they want to see what they got out of OBJ. Hopefully he's going to be able to be, fully healthy and ready to go. He says he's good to go, so let's trust the word. And I want to say, they're going to start feeding OBJ, see what they have, and then, sprinkle it in with a Zay Flowers. Mark Andrews, obviously easy, low-level risk start for you basically every single week. You got him. The Buffalo Bills. Bills Mafia, baby, taking on these New York Giants. Okay, let me apologize to New York Giant fans right away. I'm sorry for your luck. It does not look good on paper. Anything can happen. That's why they play on Sundays, but it does not look good on paper. You guys got nobody decimated by injuries, and you weren't playing that well when your starters were in there anyway. Stud start of the week for Josh Allen. Easy play right now. He should put up 300 with no problems whatsoever. Might even get an early sit down. James Cook, low-level risk. I think they're going to get back to the run game a lot after they got shut down from those Jags in London. James Cook needs a big bounce-back game. I think he gets it versus Giants. Lat Murray might have some TD upside this week in garbage time, but it's too hard to trust outside of deeper leagues. Stephon Diggs, stud start, 5 boom games in 5 weeks. What can you say, man? Everyone's getting on this man's case. Leave the man alone. He's a fiery competitor, man. He's done nothing but produce in this offense, and just because he knew he had a touchdown in that past contest, leave him alone, man. That deep ball that was underthrown by Josh Allen, but he was under duress anyway. Leave Diggs alone, stud start. Just keep watching the points roll in from our guy Stephon Diggs. Gabriel Davis, low-level risk, and there's a reason for this. He is right now the wide receiver 12 in half PPR leagues. The Bills are utilizing him quietly, which has been good for all you Gabe Davis owners who trusted the man. 3 boom games for a Gabe. I love it all day long. 4C1 coming again this week because we got some issues at the tight end spot. Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox both dealing with injury. Kincaid with a concussion still may not get, the clearance to go and play in this contest, which is on Sunday Night Football. But Dawson Knox with the wrist, you got to wonder how much he's going to be actively utilized in the pass game this week. So Diggs and Gabe Davis should have a big role in this contest. Carolina Panthers taking on the Miami Dolphins. Bryce Young, he's starting to pick up steam, looking a lot better. I'm going to put him on the mid-level risk versus Dolphins simply because of garbage time productivity as well. There could be a lot, a big scoreboard here, a boom game for the entire Miami Dolphins offense once again, even though they're shorthanded to some degree. I think Bryce Young will still try to compete, even in the time, fourth quarter where this game could be out of hand. I think Bryce will still compete. Bad news for them, they got no Miles Sanders, so Chuba Hubbard and Blackshear will be handling the duties in the backfield. So mid-level risk for a Chuba Hubbard just because of volume upside. I don't foresee a great deal of yardage and maybe a touchdown. Highly unlikely, but a mid-level risk simply due to the volume upside. Blackshear is that change of pace speed back that could maybe break one, but it's going to be very tough for this offense in general. PPR upside continues for an Adam Thielen. 4 boom games in a row for this man. You got to love what he's been able to do. Told y'all this offseason he's going to be the safety blanket, and PPR upside was going to be here all day long. Thielen is absolutely stellar, and you could trust him as your low-end wide receiver too, even against the Miami Dolphins. DJ Chark is a little bit hit or miss right now. Boom or bust, low upside for him right now. 2 boom games. It's going to be very tough to trust him on a weekly basis until this offense does start to get rolling, but he still is a very talented wide receiver that just needed an opportunity. He's getting one here, and he is paying off at this point. Need to see a couple more weeks before we can absolutely, trust him in matchup play, and this is not a good matchup overall for the Carolina Panthers. Terrace Marshall, high-level risk. Hayden Hurst got low upside, but he is on the fringe of being a high risk. He's likely on your waiver wire anyway, so do not touch a Hayden Hurst this week. I do not like it. Chicago Bears taking on these Minnesota Vikings. Vikings now shorthanded without JJ in this offense, and Chicago's seemingly figuring stuff out, man. Fields and DJ Moore went off the chain last week. Fully expect that to happen again this week. Maybe not to that level, but they should have another very solid contest. Fields, low-level risk. He's boomed 4 times for you, over 100 points so far. So even though, the start of the season did not look as good, at least, they're competitive. 1-4 is not great as a record, but at least on the field, Justin Fields is trying to find a way to move this offense. It's going to have some hard times from this backfield because no Khalil Herbert. He is on IR now due to that ankle injury, and Roshan Johnson has been ruled out with a concussion. So we're rolling with Deontay Foreman, low risk because of volume upside once again, because you only got this other dude, Blazing Game. He's okay, fine. We don't know much about him on the field just yet in the NFL, so we'll see. I think Foreman's going to get, the bulk load of the carries, and we could see Justin Fields take off with his legs quite a bit more. Low-level risk for DJ Moore. Man, I told y'all in that keeper trade video, you got to keep a DJ Moore, and this is exactly why. They're starting to figure it out. They got Chase Claypool shipped out to the Miami Dolphins, so now we can understand that DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, let's see them, expand the role for a Darnell Mooney because he is a quality number 2 wide receiver in this league, and he could pay out low upside for a Mooney. We can't play him until we see a little bit more out of that, man. Tyler Scott, the rookie with speed. Former Cincinnati product as well. I mean, he's got wheels, and this is a great opportunity to have another field stretcher on the field to help a Justin Fields and then open up things for DJ Moore. I'm a big fan of Tyler Scott. I hope he does get the show out, and a mid-level risk for Cole Kmet this week for me. I think you could play a Cole Kmet as well in the Chicago Bears offense that is starting to feel like they're turning the corner just a little bit. Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Hawks coming off the bye, everyone's going to be like, well, they're going to have a good game plan against them, but Joey B finally looked good last week. The calf looked a lot better. I thought it was going to continue to hamper him. He looked very good this past week. Fed Jamar Chase on the regular to over 40 points. We could see another good showing, even though we got Witherspoon. He is on the defensive end for these defensive back end for these Seattle Seahawks, I should say. They got a great secondary in Seattle. Jamal Adams should be back in this one as well. So there might be a little bit of testing on Joe Burrow's side where he's going to try to find the hole. But, I mean, we could see a lot of Witherspoon on a Jamar Chase, and it's going to be a good test. DK Metcalf's already saying that Spoon could get the best of Chase. I don't know if I would have thrown it out there, man, because he's always effing open, and we know this. Low risk for Burrow. Low risk for a Joe Mixon. They got to, do the ground game in this contest where Seattle can be beaten on the ground a little bit. So I think, we could see 12-15 coming from Joey Mixon. Jamar Chase, fire him up, obviously. Do not talk trash about this man because he will light you up every given week. Injury risk to it, T. Higgins. He's on the questionable tag right now. Not sure if I'm trusting it just yet. Fractured ribs does take about 4 weeks, and he's trying to play and suit up in this. Okay, we'll see how it goes. He's got the injury risk. Watch that before game to see if he actually does suit up. Tyler Boyd would be on the mid-level if Higgins does sit again, but there's not a lot of shares, going to his direction. But, I mean, this Seattle defense on the secondary side, they will challenge these wide receivers. No kidding, Irv Smith, you're not touching. Cleveland Brownies taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Bad news, Browns. Deshaun Watson is likely out for weeks for what we're hearing. He's got a rotator cuff issue, ligament issue under the rotator cuff. Not good, no bueno. And, I mean, they're not going to let him play until they said that his arm is, perfectly recovered, back to normal where he's throwing without pain. So we got P.J. Walker going to be starting for these Cleveland Browns. We saw what DTR could not do on the field. That's why they're pivoting to a P.J. Walker. Not great. I mean, P.J.'s got an arm. We can say that. He can throw the ball and sling it around the field. Fine. He's been in these contests before, but I mean, throwing him up to the 49ers defense is not necessarily a great news, high-level risk for him. Jerome Ford, low upside, only because this defense is so good. We might see Ford save his day with a touchdown again. It seems like that's his MO as well. If he's not getting you a lot of yardage, he does find his way into the end zone to save his day. I would look in another direction than starting Ford because of P.J. Walker. If it was Watson, then it's a different story. Ford, on the other hand, I would keep him on the bench if you have better options. Amari Cooper, low upside. Elijah Moore, low upside. It's P.J. Walker. We got to see what he's going to be able to do in the Stefanski offense, and I don't think it's going to be a whole heck of a lot versus these 49ers. Donovan Peoples-Jones, DPJ, high-level risk, as well as a David Njoku. Like I said in the past video, prayers up to that man. Showed all his burns, man. Did not look good, man. It's got to hurt like nobody's business. You're benching both those guys this week as well. The Dallas Cowboys taking on the Los Angeles Chargers on Monday Night Football. Okay, they got their, teeth smacked. I mean, they got, humbled, however you want to say it, by the 49ers this past week. Now they're looking for some revenge against these Chargers who cannot win or keep a lead in the fourth quarter for most of their Staley head coach tenure. I mean, this is just how it goes. Dak Prescott, I mean, they got to figure this thing out. And, all the criticism on a CeeDee Lamb saying, he's not an elite talent wide receiver one. Bull! I'm calling bull on all y'all. I'm giving low risk to a Dak Prescott and a low risk to a CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee's only got 35 targets this year. I mean, give him at least 12 in this contest and see what this man can do, because he'll put up 125 and a touchdown easily against these Chargers defense that has struggled in the best of times to cover wide receivers. So we'll see. Low-level risk bounce back game for a Dak is on the docket for sure. Tony Pollard as well, going to come back from 2 consecutive bust games, if I'm not mistaken. Low-level risk at this point. You got to feed him the ball, and I mean, you got to run the ball extremely well, control a little bit of clock, get the play action going, and feed CeeDee Lamb on the regular. I think that's got to be the game plan for these Dallas Cowboys. Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, high-level risk. We can't trust that in fantasy. And Jake Ferguson does have some good upside this week. I think he will find some holes on this Chargers defense. The Detroit Lions taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've been good, man. Look at all these boom games. Jared Goff, 3. Montgomery, 4. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown with 4. Josh Reynolds has 3. Sam Laporta's got 3. These guys are booming all over the place. Mid-level risk for a Jared Goff. This is in Tampa Bay, and the Bucs defense still is very stout and fast, man. They will come after a Jared Goff in this one, causing him some fits. Potential interception could be coming in this one, so I'm going to put him on the mid-level. Even though I do believe he's going to have a good contest, I'm going to put him on the mid-level risk right now because I do foresee potential turnover. 16 to 17 points coming from a Jared Goff. David Montgomery, low-level risk. You fire him up everywhere you got him. He's playing like a bat out of hell because, I mean, he's just running wild. He looks healthy. He looks fresh. He looks lean. He looks fast. I like him a lot, man. David Montgomery, fire him up obviously everywhere you got him. Low upside to a Craig Reynolds. We got no Gibby this week as well again. I mean, Reynolds will only be there to spell a Montgomery, so I don't think you can really trust it unless you're in dire need of running backs. Amon-Ra St. Brown does come back from the injury, 4 boom games before he went down with that injury. Low-level risk, fire him up everywhere you got him as well. PPR upside will follow this man like nobody's business. J-Mo, low upside. Okay, we got a little ahead of ourselves last week. Just because we know what the skill set is, he's clearly not ready to be the guy unleashed just yet. He's got to get his football legs back up under him. Do some 9s, do some deep 7s, crosses, and see what this man can do. He dropped that one, pulled up for that one pass last week because he felt that safety coming to light him up, and he definitely, he's got low upside right now. We got to wait and see a couple more weeks, and then we'll have a better indication of what J-Mo's going to be. Josh Reynolds, mid-level risk. You can absolutely trust him in the flex option. Especially with Sam Laporta dealing with a calf injury. He is questionable, but likely to start. They may continue to go to Josh Reynolds. He's looking like a Pro Bowl talent when the Pro Bowl actually mattered, but he's looking good, putting up a lot of points. 55.1 for a Josh Reynolds. Looks very good in this offense, has the trust of Jared Goff. You can absolutely fire him up in your flex play. Houston Texans taking on the New Orleans Saints. They should have won that game last week versus the Falcons. I told y'all, man, CJ Stroud has got that ice in his veins. He brought them back, got the point lead, and then the defense let him down at the end, which caused the loss. CJ Stroud, mid-level risk. He's got 3 boom games, almost 90 points, but you're facing a New Orleans Saints defense that is carrying this Saints club right now, and they are extremely stout on the defensive back end. I love this team on the defense. Stroud will likely face his toughest task right now in the NFL so far as his rookie season does continue. Dameon Pierce, mid-level risk. I did call him a bust on the Boomer Bust show because I don't know how this is going to go. I think they're going to stack the box and they're going to try to let CJ Stroud beat them through the air. They're not going to allow Dameon Pierce to break runs, and so it's all up to CJ Stroud. Can he beat the guys like Marshawn Lattimore and the Honey Badger? We'll see if he can do that on the regular, but I mid-level risk. It's a tough play to play a Dameon Pierce, but like I said, if you have no other options, I understand why you got to play him. Nico Collins on the mid-level this week because he's going up likely against a Marshawn Lattimore. I do not like that. I think Lat's going to get the best of him for majority of the day, so unless Nico finds his way into the end zone to save his day, it could be tough sledding for him as well. Injury risk to both Bobby Trees, Woods, and a Tank Dell. We got a better upside for a Robert Woods to play in this contest than we do Tank Dell. They waited one more day to see if he's going to be able to clear concussion protocol, but it's not looking good because they were ready to call him out for this contest on Friday. Did not happen, so we will see on Saturday. I'll keep you notified in the comments as to Tank Dell's status. Dalton Schultz, if Dell does sit, does get a low-level risk. He will have to find a safety blanket. Stroud will, and Dalton Schultz has picked up his game these past 2 weeks. We can absolutely trust him again in the tight end spot. The Indianapolis Colts taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. No more Anthony Richardson. It is back to Minshew Mania. He's a reliable backup quarterback, and this could have been the plan all along. If they were scared, that Anthony Richardson was not going to make it due to, taking big punishment, or he was, not playing well on the football field, Gardner Minshew was a great, secondary piece in this quarterback room to take over at some point. Now he gets his opportunity, and he's going to be able to at least move this ball down the field. Taking on the Jaguars, something of a, revenge game, you want to say, for Minshew, but I like the kid. I think he's got some abilities, and we'll see what he does. JT and Zach Moss, what do we do with these two gentlemen? Mid-level risk for a JT, low risk for a Zach Moss. The Colts have said that they will plan to give JT more touches this week, and I do believe them. I truly do. How much of running upside is this team going to do this week versus the Jags? It may come down to game script and game flow. If the Jags get a big lead, this could all go out the window. But JT, we could see 60-40 splits for Zach Moss to JT. Maybe Taylor gets in the end zone. I think he does go over that 10-point threshold we're looking for. But Zach Moss has been running so well. I think you can absolutely start still a Zach Moss and then chance it with a Jonathan Taylor on the mid-level risk. Michael Pittman mid-level risk as well. It's tough to trust because the Jags do play some good defense. Even though they just gave up a lot of points to a Stephon Diggs, you got to think they're going to key in on a Michael Pittman and force them to throw the ball elsewhere to a guy like Josh Downs. Flex play for a Pittman is definitely warranted, but Josh Downs as well. PPR upside is coming. Told you guys a couple weeks back we could be early then, and now we're kind of too late because everybody's already aware of who Josh Downs is. I was telling y'all, we down for Downs? Abso-freaking-lutely. You can play him in the flex this week once again. Those Jaguars taking on these Indianapolis Colts. Trevor Lawrence coming off the victory versus the Buffalo Bills. He's got 4 boom games, even though it is on the lower end. Threshold, I should say it that way. Low-level risk this week as well. This, Colts defense can be carved up at times, even though sometimes they do play. They got linebackers that come after the running backs and the quarterback, but I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to expose them like he has in the past. Likewise with the Travis Etienne, fire him up, low-level risk. No problem with Etienne's game. He is cooking teams on the regular. 3 boom games for that man. So when it comes to this wide receiver core, we still got Nozay Jones. He is out with a knee once again. Calvin Ridley on the low-level risk. I like what I saw last week. He absolutely showed why the Jaguars traded for this man, even though Christian Kirk's got good upside in the mid-level range type good upside. 4 boom games for Christian Kirk. You got to start him in your flex everywhere you got him, or wide receiver 2, because he will give you low-end wide receiver 2 numbers once again. Evan Ingram, low-level risk. You start him everywhere you got him as well, because tight end is way too volatile to keep this man on your bench. The Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football, like I'm saying. Coming off the bye week, these guys should be fresh. Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator, going up against his former team in those Dallas Cowboys. Justin Herbert, low-level risk. They do get a nice piece back to the puzzle. Austin Eckler is back, y'all. Low-level risk, fire him up. Even though he's been off for a while, they're dying for some spark from this backfield. Josh Kelly has not done the business. Isaiah Spiller has not even seen the field. They just don't like to run without an Austin Eckler at this point. I got to say, low-level risk for Austin Eckler because he'll at least get PPR upside. Something like we saw out of an Alvin Kamara when he returned. I think we could see something very similar from an Austin Eckler this week. Keenan Allen, low-level risk. This Cowboys defense is not what it used to be in week 1 versus New York Giants. I mean, we know what the Giants are now, so I think we were overhyping a little bit too much what these Cowboys defense really truly was. No Leighton Vander Esch as well. He's on the IR with a neck injury for the Cowboys linebacker group. Keenan Allen could absolutely feast on this defense. Low-level risk again. Once he could absolutely give you a 20-point spot versus the Cowboys. Josh Palmer, mid-level risk for me. They're going to still continue to figure this out. We only got to see 1 game without a Mike Williams between, who's it going to be, Josh Palmer or Q Johnston. I'm still betting my money on a Palmer at this point, where Johnston could start to see his role increase after, say, like week 8, 9, 10. Then we can understand how this offense is moving. But Josh Palmer is way too talented at this point and has the chemistry with a Herbert not to trust his abilities. Gerald Everett, Donald Parham. I'm giving mid-levels to Everett now that, we're going to understand how this offense does move. Dallas will still try to pressure a Justin Herbert, so we could see some Everett on the check downs. Los Angeles Rams taking on those Arizona Cardinals. New look Rams, they look good. Matthew Stafford finally gets on the low-level risk for me. I think if you got him against the Cardinals, you can fire him up absolutely. They got Cooper Kupp, Tutu Atwell, Puka Nacua, and they look good, man. They took the Eagles to task, and everyone thought, okay, Nacua's going to fall off a cliff because Cooper's back. They're going to simultaneously eat in this offense because Matthew Stafford knows how to nickel and dime Tom Brady style down the field, and Cooper Kupp and Nacua will have a massive role. You fire up both Kupp and Nacua along with a Stafford. You can also start a Kyren Williams. Low-level risk for me, even though the Arizona Cardinals defense has played relatively well this season. They got exposed by those Cincinnati Bengals, and I think that, Sean McVay absolutely will watch tape. Side note, Sean McVay's wife is having a child. He may not coach in this contest, so keep your eyes on that, and we'll see how that does pan out, because it could be a little bit lesser on the, full-on creativity from the play-calling side aspect. Tyler Higbee, high-level risk, because you got too many mouths to feed now with this talented wide receiver core. The Las Vegas Raiders taking on the New England Patriots. Okay, revenge games, baby. They are real, and I'm telling y'all, and we got two in this one. Jimmy G and Jacoby Myers both going up against Bill Belichick and the Patriots in the revenge contest. We got Josh McDaniels going up against the teacher. The student now becomes the master. We'll see. It's very difficult to trust the New England Patriots at this point. I think the leg up does go to these Las Vegas Raiders. Low-level risk for Jimmy G. He's going to want to showcase his talents against the Patriots and stick it to his old club. Josh Jacobs, fire him up everywhere you got him, obviously. He's rebounded in a very big way. Looks very good. Devontae Adams still on the injury report with that shoulder. He suited up last week, so there's no indication he will not play this week. So once again, green injury risk for him. You got him. You fire him up because he will, again, do the business for these Raiders. Jacoby Myers, like I'm saying, revenge game, fire him up as well. I'm totally cool with it because revenge games, it brings the best out of these players. They're going to want to showcase their talents. Hunter Renfrow, Michael Mayer, not to touch in fantasy just yet, even though Mayer looked like he got sprinkled in last week on Monday Night Football versus the Packers, so that's something to watch as he is a very quality rookie tight end. The Miami Dolphins taking on the Carolina Panthers. This one's going to be ugly for these Panthers as Miami's going to want to, expose this offense. Yes, the biggest pain point is we lost Devin Achane, okay? And I mean, it sucks. We got him off the waiver. He's likely not back. Most of us got him off the waiver. He's likely not back till week 11 after the bye week anyway because they have, the IR designation is 4 weeks. So we're going to be without Devin Achane for quite some time. We still got Raheem Mostert. You can fire him up. Tua's on a stud start. I think he's absolutely going to carve up this defense with a Tyreek Hill, who also gets a stud start from me. I think Mostert is going to be the guy they're going to lean upon. But again, you got to keep the caveat on. Do not overwork a Mostert because we know he does have a history of injuries, and this could also transpire as well. Salvon Ahmed is likely the backup guy that we can trust in this game. We've seen that Brooks kid also take some touches because Jeff Wilson still, he had the 21-day window for him to return from the IR was open. He just did not clear in time for this contest. So I do believe it's going to be Salvon Ahmed. I mean, watch pregame to see the actives and inactives before you trust it. But if it is Mostert and Ahmed, it is a very good duo as well. Jalen Waddle, low-level risk. They were trying to force feed this man the ball, the targets this past week to get him more involved. Like I was saying, he did find his way into the end zone, almost had two. It was that Tua pick. He threw it in the wrong spot. It would have been a second Waddle touchdown. But, I mean, I think you could play all these guys at this point. Braxton Berrios in deeper leagues, he does have low PPR upside for me, and Durham Smythe we're obviously not touching like every single week so far this season. The Minnesota Vikings taking on the Chicago Bears, both 1-4, desperately require a win in a massive divisional shootout. I mean, Kirk Cousins, this was one of the better passing attacks in the NFL. Will it continue? Probably not because they lost Justin Jefferson. He's gone with a hammy on the IR for the next 4 weeks. Mid-level risk for a Kirk Cousins. They've been making mistakes with JJ on the field. Without JJ, I fear for Kirk Cousins' life and fantasy point productivity at this point. Mid-level risk. I mean, let's see where it goes. I could be completely wrong. He could put up 40 points for you this week. But, I mean, it's tough to say. If you got him, play him. I mean, and then we'll wait and see and dissect what happens afterward. Alexander Mattison gets a mid-level to a low-level risk for me. It's kind of in between that. On the graphic here, I got mid-level, but I think you can absolutely trust him this week. They're going to have to lean on the ground game, get it going a little bit more, use Cam Akers a little bit more, kind of do that 50-50 split, control some of this clock, get the play-action pass working for them as well, and I think it will be to a big benefit. Mid-level to low-level for a Mattison. We're a low upside risk for a Akers simply due to volume, lack of volume, I should say it that way. Okay, these wide receivers, let's talk about these guys. Jordan Addison, Addy, I gotta believe target share's got to be, uplifted massively for this rookie. He's a natural separator. I'm going to harp on this all the time. He's a great route runner, and he's got good hands. I foresee a lot of good things coming for Addison. You got him, play him this week. Likewise with KJ Osborne, I think we could trust him in the flex spot. PPR upside is definitely here, and he already has the trust of Kirk Cousins from previous seasons, so KJ Osborne absolutely can trust. Deeper leagues, Brandon Powell saw some targets this past week, so he will be utilized in this offense in 3 wide receiver sets, but I don't know if we could trust it just yet outside of really deep leagues. And TJ Hawkinson, low-level risk, obviously could be the number 1 target priority for a Kirk Cousins. Now that JJ is not on the roster, he is sitting on the IR. The New England Patriots taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Oh, man, and I'll do this one quick because everybody's a high risk in this team, basically. I mean, if there was any contest that we could say Ramondre Stevenson breakout, this was the one. And if it doesn't happen in this one, I think for all intents purposes, I think we all missed on Ramondre Stevenson this season. It just does not look good. This offense is out of whack. We have heard that, Malik Cunningham is making strides, potentially could take over Mac Money Jones. And Mac No Money Jones, as the way he's been playing, it's been absolutely horrific. I mean, Kendrick Bourne even still pulls the mid-level risk for me, but I mean, it's only because you got to throw the ball to somebody, and lately he's not even throwing to nobody. We got injuries to Juju, we got injuries to Douglas, so we got maybe Kayshon Boutte. If you like some Boutte, you're going to get your first little sprinkle of Kayshon this week, likely. I mean, they don't have many other receivers. I'm a big fan of Kayshon, always have been, going back to the LSU days. He's another version of a Jarvis Landry, in my opinion, and if they utilize him, I think that he will be able to showcase his talents. Use the man properly, and he should repay you. Hunter Henry with the mid-level risk. He's been busting for us ever since those 2 games he got the touchdown. So outside of Ramondre, I'm not really trusting anybody, and if Ramondre fails us again this week, I think, it's getting ugly for us Ramondre Stevenson owners, and, for me, I preached him up so high this offseason. I do apologize to all of y'all that listened to it, because I was one of them as well. I got Dre in a lot of leagues as well. New Orleans Saints taking on the Houston Texans. Derek Carr, man, I don't know how you did it. He's off the injury report with an AC joint in 2 weeks. Okay, this man's got some steel in his blood. I don't know what is going on, but I'm giving him the mid-level risk. I think they're going to continue to, dump it down. They're not going to continue to go deep in potential risk to re-injury, trying to go deep to Chris Olave and, Rashid Shaheed. I think they're going to continue down this path of dumping it to Alvin Kamara, running the ball with Kamara and Kendre Miller, and dumping it down on the slants to slant boy Michael Thomas. This is how it's going to be outside of the red zone like we saw last week where Olave caught a nice touchdown and then basically was done for the day. He's got a toe and an ankle that he's dealing with, even though he is off the injury report. Olave is. I'm going to put Olave as a mid-level risk. Kamara on a low-level risk. You can trust him since he came back. He's looked absolutely dynamic. Mid-level for Derek Carr. Mid-level for a Kendre Miller. I think that, if all the injuries that we do have at the running back spot, I think we could play a Kendre Miller this week versus these Houston Texans. There is good upside here for me. 16.2 points. He looked good last week. I think they're going to try to utilize both these guys until Jamal Williams comes back. So if there was any opportunity to play a Kendre Miller, this is the week as well. Because, he might get relegated back to the bench once Jamal Williams does come back. Michael Thomas, you can play. Chris Olave, like I'm saying, if you have no other options because we drafted Olave so high, we got to play him. If you do got a better option, I suggest sitting Olave this week and hope he does not burn us with a touchdown and then some. We will see how it does work. I got to play him in a couple leagues because I have no other option. So it's one of those, you're hoping for the best, just not hoping for the worst. Shaheed and Taysom Hill will be playing this week because there is no Juwan Johnson. High-level risks for both those men, in my opinion. New York Giants, similarly, like the New England Patriots, are just an awful squad, and we can't trust it. Even though the Buffalo Bills did lose Matt Milano on the defensive side, the Bills' defense still looks very stout, and we do know that, Von Miller will start to get his touches increased. Greg Rousseau is back from injury. So they got pieces, and they are going to come after Tyrod Taylor. No Daniel Jones, Daniel Pennies. It's not looking good, man. Darren Waller on their injury report, likely to suit up as Saquon Barkley at this point. He was limited in practice, but they're calling it to be a true game-time decision. He may not suit up in this contest, so you definitely got to watch out for that injury risk to a Saquon. No kidding about that. Matt Breida would get the start, but I don't think I would play him versus the Buffalo Bills with a Tyrod Taylor because it could get very ugly very quick, as Tyrod has seen better days in his career. Hodgins, Slayton, Campbell, Hyatt, who do we trust? I'm going based solely on target share and volume, where Slayton and Paris Campbell do have the upside over all of these wide receivers. We do know that Tyrod still can throw the deep ball. Always, man. In his prime, he had one of the prettiest deep balls you've seen in the NFL, Tyrod Taylor. So he'll be able to at least spread the ball around to target share. There may be garbage time upside. I fully expect the Bills to drop a 40 spot on these New York Giants who got injuries all over the field. Darren Waller on the mid-level. Only real one I'm trusting in this offense this week is a Darren Waller, as they showed us some dedication to get him some targets, which helped us get some good garbage time production. New York Jets taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. A very interesting contest here, as the Jets are, they're starting to figure it out with Zach Wilson again. He's looking a little better each and every week. He's not great, but as long as he can move this offense, he can make this team somewhat of a competitive winner. Philadelphia, though, they're dealing with injuries. No Carter, no Slay on the defensive side. This is good news for the run game. And Breece Hall, low-level risk. We could see Breece take one. There is potential. He's looked better and better every single week. I still think that the defensive front for the Eagles will overtake a New York Jets offensive line that is now without Vera Tucker for the season. So that's a huge loss on the offensive line for the Jets as well. Dalvin Cook, low upside. You're not touching that. Garrett Wilson, I'm going to give him good upside this week because everybody's been able to cook the Eagles on the defensive backfield so far. The secondary has not played well this year. Injuries have been a major issue as well. That's the reason why we could see Garrett Wilson do it himself and take it to the house. Good upside for Garrett Wilson. Conklin does pull a mid-level risk for me. PPR upside only in, I don't even want to say deeper leagues. We're struggling for tight end productivity. Conklin could get some decent checkdowns versus a defense that is very fast. Lazard and Gibson, I am not playing this week as well. Those Eagles taking on these New York Jets. Okay, we saw Jalen Hurts take off, use his legs a little bit more this past week. It was good to see. Low-level risk, 4 boom games, 113 points. Tush, push, and all. I mean, it's all good for Hurts. We want to see a little bit more, but I think he's doing extremely well. They're 5-0. They're winning games. The methodology is doing extremely well. I like it a lot. Low-level risk for Jalen Hurts simply because Reed and Sauce are Reed is out. Sauce is dealing with an illness. He may not be 100% come Sunday. Definitely something to watch as well. So a tough task going up against A.J. Brown. Grown-ass man Sauce Gardner will have. That means to me no Reed, no DJ Reed. We could see Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert absolutely have big days if a Sauce Gardner does shadow an A.J. Brown. DeAndre Swift on the mid-level risk. Before I forget, you can probably play him, but that front seven of the New York Jets will make it very difficult for DeAndre this week. We could see one of his worst games of the season. You still got to play him because he's been absolutely lights out with 70 points in 4 boom games. A.J. Brown on the mid-level risk. They've been giving him the ball a lot these past 3 weeks after he was complaining on the sidelines. I think this is a contest where we kind of see that pull back just a little bit. Goes to a Devonta Smith based on coverage schemes, like I said, with no DJ Reed and Sauce dealing with the illness. And Dallas Goedert finally came back to fold this past week. So this week could be Smith and Goddard with a little sprinkles of, Smith and Goddard with sprinkles of DeAndre Swift. And then Hurts should have another big day here for the Philadelphia Eagles. San Francisco 49ers 5-0 as well. They look like world beaters right now. The game looks so easy for these guys. Taking travel to Cleveland, cross country. Brock Purdy, I'm going to put him on the mid-level risk. Even though he does, and has shown to play very well, I believe in this Cleveland Browns defense. Even with a P.J. Walker, they will ball out. Myles Garrett was dealing with injury before the bye week, should be good to go in this contest, and he is going to try his darndest to get after a Brock Purdy. We could see some, sacks. We could see maybe tip passes, maybe an interception. I love how they play on the back end. Delpit and Ward are 2 of my guys from college football. I love their games, and they will make the 49ers earn a lot on this field. Christian McCaffrey, low-level risk. They will just continue to feed this man 5 boom games, 123 points. Best first overall pick so far that we've had in a very long time. And, I mean, Christian McCaffrey has no sense of slowing down at this point. Low-level risk, you fire him up everywhere you got him. Debo! Only because of the gadget plays and the potential rushing upside in this contest to be creative as these Cleveland Browns start to come after Brock Purdy. I could see Debo having a better game than Ayuk in this one. I think Ayuk is going to struggle to get open a lot in this contest outside of finding a touchdown. I'm really banking on this Cleveland Browns secondary to put the shackles on an Ayuk where they won't be able to as much for a Samuel. That's why I'm doing it low-level risk for Debo and a mid-level risk for an Ayuk. Juwan Jennings is always just that third guy we're not looking at. And George Kittle, good upside once again, coming off a monster day versus the Dallas Cowboys. Should be curtailed back a lot, but I do foresee a lot of Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle in this one as well, as the defensive backs will have a big thing to say about how these guys get open for the wide receiver spot. Seattle Seahawks taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Geno, they're coming off the bye week, taking their talents to Cincinnati. Travel's always the worst when you're going west to east, and I mean, statistics have always proven that, and especially for an early start for the Seattle Seahawks, they're going to be 2 hours behind. It's not good. Geno Smith on the low-level risk. He should be able to continue what he's been doing. I don't foresee the Bengals defense, putting lights-out scheme on these guys, so Geno's going to be able to move the ball. They will lean continuously on this ground game. Low-level risk for a Kenny Walker. High risk for a Charbonnet, only because we're not seeing the full split touches just yet, as Kenny has been absolutely balling, almost 70 points for him as well. Eventually, we will see Charbonnet sprinkled into the mix in this offense that much more, but I'm telling y'all right now, Kenny should have another good day versus defense that isn't necessarily great versus the run. DK Metcalf starting controversy saying that Spoon is going to take down a Chase, and so DK, you better put up some points this week as well, because you got to show out a Jamar Chase. Low-level risk for DK Metcalf, 4 boom games before they went into the bye week. He's been great this season as well. Mid-level risk for Tyler Lockett. You got him, you fire him up as well, because I do believe that this defense in Cincinnati is susceptible to giving up some good plays, and Tyler Lockett could get on the deep shot and find his way into the end zone. Jackson Smith-Njigba, high-level risk. We can't trust it. Still already in week 6, and just the way that this offense is utilized with 12-man personnel, you just can't get this man on the field. This is why I was kind of confused why they drafted him, but I think it's going to be one of those future things where Tyler Lockett's no longer on this team, and then JSN does take over at that point. Noah Fant, high-level risk, only if you got the kahunas to play him. I do not this week. High-level risk for me. Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on these Detroit Lions. Bake show coming off of the bye. And they look good. What can we say? They look good, efficient. They're not turning the ball over. No is injury designation to a Mike Evans. Very good news. However, could he be playing decoy this week so he doesn't risk re-injuring? But he did have the extra week off the bye, so he could be healed. Minor tweak was the hammy, so we'll see. Soft tissue injuries are never any joke, because you play a Mike Evans, he tries to sprint out one, and then the first play of the game, and then he's out for the rest of the contest. These are scary, scary things, but if he's suiting up, you got to play him, because he's been playing great football with a Baker Mayfield. I got a low-level risk for a Baker as well. They're going to have to put up a lot of points to keep up with these Detroit Lions. It is in Tampa Bay, so it is home field advantage. I do like it a lot. Rashad White gets a mid-level risk. Started picking up his game. It's just something about it right now that I don't trust fully, but I understand if you got him, you're going to start him. But I would caution it this week. Mid-level risk. Detroit has been pretty good on that defensive front with Hutchinson and company. They look pretty damn good on the defensive front. Like I said, Mike Evans, you got him, you fire him up. Chris Godwin, low-level risk. I think, the MO in this game is to feed a Chris Godwin, sprinkle some of Mike Evans, and then go to Cade Otton. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I might be completely out to lunch on that one, but because Mike Evans is back, Cade Otton's upside does go down only to TD red zone upside, where I would have had him at a mid-level risk with good upside in this contest. So Godwin, Evans, and Baker Mayfield, I feel very comfortable playing them. Outside of that, you got to see if how healthy a Mike Evans is before we can trust a Cade Otton. Tennessee Titans taking on these Baltimore Ravens in London, like I was saying. Mid-level risks basically across the board. We got mid-level for a Tannehill, Spears, Hopkins, low upside to Westbrook, Akina, and okay, D-Hop got back in the mix this past week. Was good to see, okay? We understand it took 4 weeks to get it, force-fed to a D-Hop. Maybe that does happen again this week versus a Baltimore Ravens defense that still is pretty good. They gave up some plays this past week, but they will bounce back, and they will go after Ryan Tannehill. The keying in on a Derrick Henry once again. He is busted in 2 of the past 3 games, so a low-level risk for me. I do expect him to run very hard in London to set up the play action for Ryan Tannehill, and then we will see the sprinkles of a DeAndre Hopkins. Outside of that, I'm not really looking to anything outside of a Henry and D-Hop in this contest. Spears might start to see his role increase, but it's too volatile to trust. I'll put it on the mid-level because I do like the fact that his usage is starting to go up, but Derrick Henry is the low-risk play for me for the Tennessee Titans this week. Last one I got is the Washington Commanders, the Commies. Okay, 2-3 versus 3-2 Atlanta Falcons. And the disappointing aspect of this offense, because, okay, Sam Howell's putting up a lot of fantasy points. He's getting sacked a ton, and a lot of it was coming from, garbage time point productivity. The Atlanta Falcons defense is legit, man. They are a very good top-tier team in both the run and the pass, stopping each opposing team. Now you got a Sam Howell who has been sacked more than any QB, is on pace to break Derek Carr's brother, David Carr, break his NFL record for most sacks. He's over 100 right now, projected sacks. So, we could see Sam Howell once again running for his life. But look what happens. 4 boom games for Sam Howell because he's going to continue to feed the ball around to his wide receivers. The problem is we don't have have one who he trusts 100%. He's moving the ball around to a multitude of wide receivers. Terry McLaurin, low upside. Jahan Dotson, it hurts me to say it this week. High-level risk. We can't trust it until we see it, Jahan. I'm sorry. I tried to promote you as long as I could. Now I can't do it anymore. He's got to be on your bench or on the waiver wire if you cannot hold him anymore. I'm still holding. I'm going down with the ship because I know the talent level is there. It's just target share, sheer target share, and the way they're scheming up Jahan to pull coverage from McLaurin and Curtis Samuel from Eric Bieniemy. I just wish they'd give him some targets, man. He could absolutely do the business. PPR upside for Curtis Samuel and a mid-level risk for a Logan Thomas. Thomas has been good in PPR upside. I think that it will again. Safety blanket is key for these young quarterbacks. Brian Robinson, mid-level risk. Going to be very tough sledding versus Atlanta Falcons defense, but I think Brian Robinson could absolutely find his way into the end zone in this contest once again as he did in previous weeks. But if I'm talking wide receivers to trust, I think you can play Terry this week with low upside confidence. I think there is a possibility, he does get behind this defense and Sam Howell finds him. We shall see. It's going to be an interesting game. I'm actually really looking forward to this one because there is so many youthful, talented players that we want to see take the next step. And then John Dotson, obviously, on the bench, and Curtis Samuel in your flex if you have him. But there you have it. That is week number 6. Start, sit. It's getting heavy, man, as we enter week 6. These wins we require big time to get into the fantasy postseason. So definitely, if you have any questions on the start sit, throw them in the comments. I will definitely get back to y'all and with my best opinion advice that I possibly can. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. I am out.